Hello and welcome to a CX Moment. In these candid conversations, we chat with leaders about what's happening with their business, their support centers, and with their customer experience. This week, we're joined by two remarkable companies, Mako Medical and CustomerHD. This is a great opportunity for you to ask the questions that are meaningful to you, be it about BPO partners, scaling teams, or anything else that strikes your fancy. So please drop them in the Q&A and we'll do our best to answer them all. You'll also see some pop-ups on screen, a survey, perhaps a poll, and we, of course, as always, appreciate your feedback. And if you like what we're chatting about, share it using hashtag CXMoment. Now that the logistics are out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Sarah Reed from Zendesk, and let's say hello to Josh from Mako Medical and Joe and Jonathan from CustomerHD. That's a lot of J's, gentlemen. So if I get one of you mixed up with the other, I totally apologize well in advance.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here.
And how is everyone today? Joe and Jonathan, you are in Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
That's
yes,
right. Yeah.
we're in the eye of some storm that they're saying is coming, but
yes,
we'll see.
It's spring in the south. And Josh, where is Mako located?
We're located out of Raleigh, North Carolina as well, too.
That's pretty sweet. I used to live there. Great city. Miss it
Yes,
all
it is.
every day. All right, Josh. So let's start with you. Can you briefly explain a bit about what Mako Medical's business model was before the pandemic and then what it's evolved into?
Absolutely. So prior to the pandemic, we were a full service reference lab, basically servicing physicians and hospitals across the South, really from Southern Ohio down through Georgia, everything from a simple blood test like a CBC all the way up to sequencing for clinical research. So really a B2B concept. And then the pandemic hit, we went live with a COVID-19 assay for PCR, saliva, and nasal testing. And our customer changed a little bit, right? It went from being physicians and hospitals primarily to dealing directly with patients. And so we had that shift. And since April, we've seen and tested more than 6 million patients across the country from 43 different states. And so I'm excited to kind of talk about how we scaled with CustomerHD to support all those patients.
We're going to get into the difference in supporting B2B and B2C in a moment. But first, I'm very curious, how much ticket volume would you say you had in customer support in January of 2020? And how did it ramp up as COVID really took off?
Yeah, so prior to, let's say, January 2020, the average day may have been 50 to 80 calls inbound that we were supporting.
Super manageable. You could handle that internally, no problem.
Absolutely. You know, we were doing great. And then when COVID hit and, you know, the test volume and the patient volume increased like it did, that number grew to a high as one point of 25,000 phone calls a day. So,
all right. And
It was awesome.
yeah.
And so you have to tell me about, or tell the audience about the Josh called John moment.
Yeah, so John and I had met at a leadership networking event a few years back, maybe 2018, when John was starting CustomerHD. And when we got to this point, we were just scaling so quickly and growing so quickly. We knew we needed an outsourced third party that was customer centric to lean on. And so, you know, this is we're dealing directly with patients and directly with patient results for COVID. And so I had to call somebody I trusted. Right. So I picked up the phone and called John. I said, John, I don't know how you can help. If your company can do it, fantastic. If not, can you just put me in the right direction? Because this growth pattern that we're going through is crazy. And we can't do it internally. So that was the Josh called John moment. At a point when our call volume was doubling almost every day.
Well, I'm gonna move to you in a second, John, but I think one of the things I really want to point out is that everyone should have a John to call. right?
Mhm.
It's you need to have those partners, those people in your network that when things are outside your scope, that you can call up and go, uh, if nothing else, you have to give me some advice on what I need to do here. So
If
John,
my
how much?
number is,
So how stressed was Josh when he called you that day?
yeah,
And what
he's
did you all do about it?
Josh is one of the more even-keeled people I know, so it's hard to read his stress level. Uh, but it was an easy answer at the time because he was still trying to plan for what that growth is going to look like, and they hadn't quite been hit with it yet. And so on that call, I talked about Zendesk as being a potential solution because I knew HIPAA compliance was important. I knew trackability was important, and the ability to scale with a platform that CustomerHD was really comfortable with, I thought was also important to the success of what could happen. Yeah, and then from there it just grew at a rate that I had never seen before.
All right. So
It was
this,
really
what
exciting.
you're telling me then is this was actually pretty new for you all as well to have something that was requiring scalability to that extreme. And so what does that do to your own organization? Joe, how do you staff up for it? How do you make sure that
Well,
people are trained appropriately? What the heck is going through your mind?
Yeah, so John and I started Customer HD. We've been working together for almost 20 years, starting companies. So John and I first got started at a company called art.com like 20 years ago. And
Art.com.
yep, we were art.com buddies. And then we
Awesome.
went and started a company called Customer or Canvas on Demand and sold that to Cafe Press. And so John and I have been scaling, we've been holiday scaling basically our whole career for e-tail, right?
yes.
For
Yeah.
so we're used to this 3 month, it's coming, and then all of a sudden it takes off. And you're usually sitting there kind of waiting. We always joke that it's like watching the Armada, the Spanish Armada sail to you, because it's coming, but it's not coming real fast. And with this, it was way different because it was literally, I mean, this was the COVID pandemic. This is
Right.
like nothing that any
Yeah.
of us had ever seen before. And so from a scale perspective, what we were very lucky to have in this scenario is a client who trusted us and who already had that relationship with John. And so Josh really let us do what we do, which is, I mean, I would say if there's one differentiator with Customer HD is that we're not a cookie cutter BPO. We solve for the client's problem. And in this scenario, it was how do we go from 80 to 25,000 in a couple of months. And so for us, it was right in our wheelhouse, even though it was intense. It was just exciting and fun, and still is fun to this day. We were also at a point where we had just gone remote with our team. So we had kind of cleared out our main call center.
Okay.
And John and I were actually talking about how we could find a way to be part of the fight against COVID and to give people jobs. So many people were losing jobs. How can we grow and fight against COVID? And then Josh made the phone call and we were dancing at jigs. So we loved the whole thing.
All
Yeah.
right. So it sounds like it worked out pretty well for both of you. But if we go back in time a bit in those scale days, and we're getting some questions in, and I'll direct this to John or Joe first, of how do you scale that quickly with and still ensuring that your agents are satisfied? Because that's a lot of volume to suddenly throw at them. So how do you keep that employee count high and keep job satisfaction high?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with leadership. So we have great leaders here who are experienced, hungry, and are totally bought into the mission and what we're trying to accomplish. So basically the director on this account for this one works hand in hand with the director with Josh. And they keep us very informed, and we're very involved in the decisions that are being made. But she's created a culture and an environment that allows us not only to grow at that rate, but also monitor the quality, make sure people understand HIPAA compliance, everything that needed to happen for us to successfully answer the phone for Mako. She was very involved in the day-to-day. She's like working long hours, as we all were during that period of time. But you have to have leaders that buy in and who are smart. I mean, she is, you know, she's gone to grad school, graduated from grad school, and is somebody that's really helped with that. And then I'll let Joe talk a little bit about our recruiting, how we recruit. Our recruiting process is ever changing, but it's also something that allows us to hire at a very high scale. But most of this team initially at CustomerHD, everybody still, even during COVID, was coming on campus at our site to learn and become assimilated in a socially distant manner. And so we had very strict guidelines and rules, and we changed we did everything. We changed everything so it was a touchless environment. You didn't have to touch anything except for your keyboard when you walked in. And so we did a lot of things to make that happen and get this team to understand and work together and lean on each other to be successful in this operation. Joe, you want to touch on the recruiting a little bit?
I mean, the other thing is in this particular case, and we like to work on clients that we believe in their products. So, you know, John and I are sole proprietors of CustomerHD, so we get to kind of choose who we work with. And in this particular case, especially, the team believed in the work that they were doing as well. I mean, they're literally talking to people about one of the most intimate things that Absolutely. They're going to have during their entire lifetime, whether they have a positive or negative result from a COVID test. Mm-hmm. So I think the team also really felt the weight of the role that they were playing and the gift that Mako had given us to be part of it. And so that also helped our team, who were very new. We recruit very novelly in that we basically give anybody a chance to interview with us who wants a job at CustomerHD. We don't look at resumes very closely. We give you the chance. If you want to show up and talk to one of our folks, our recruiters talk to them. And we don't have a profile besides you need to have a servant's heart and want to work and show up on time. And that has paid off for us very, very well. But that doesn't mean that our team doesn't come from one particular industry, or they aren't CSRs by trade. They're from all over we've got a mix of incredible people from boatloads of different backgrounds, from stock rooms to fast food. But they all share the same willingness and desire to serve and to help people. And so it was great. It was a really good time to be hiring as well, because a lot of people were losing jobs. So it was like a 3-layered gift, you know, from Mako letting us do it, then us letting our employees do it, then our employees loving on their customers at the end. It was really a great thing to be working on right in the heat of it all. And still, I mean, we're still taking phone calls right outside my door today, you know, as we continue testing.
So Josh, we talked a bit about the difference in customers going from B2B to B2C, and all three of you have now touched on the how emotional something like a COVID test can be. And being someone who unfortunately did test positive, I know what that waiting moment feels like. And then when you do get that test and you're like, how did this happen? And it is a super stressful time. How was that for you and your support organization early on before you brought on CustomerHD? Like, how emotional, stressful was that for you all to go, you know, to support people like that?
Yeah, I think quick answer is it was very emotional, right? Because people, like you said, on the phone, and this is a big deal because it truly is a big deal. Like, if they are positive, then all of this stuff comes in somebody's head. Well, who did I give it to somebody else? How did I get it? Where, you know, how can I not get it moving forward? So we had to like really work through with our team. But a point that Joe made, and I think it's the same with our lab teams, our customer support teams, is that they know that the work that they are doing is so important. So the long hours, the stress, the emotional toll is almost worth it, because at the end of the day, you go home and you're like, I just did something. I just spent 8 hours, 10 hours doing really, really, really good work, that, may have been in the not necessarily greatest information to give to somebody, but you're having an impact, right? And you're making a difference. And I think that's what drove and still drives our team today, as we still kind of work through all of this, is that the impact that they are making, they can see it day in and day out.
It's sometimes really hard for organizations like yourself to want to outsource because of all the things that you just talked about. These customers are near and dear to you. There is, an emotional connection to them. And now you're trusting someone else with your most valued resource, right? And did it matter to you that Customer HD was in the same city as you? Or was it more of the company themselves that made you want to partner?
Yeah, I think at this point, when we're all meeting people through video conferencing and Zoom, it was less about them being in Raleigh, and it was more about the trust and the leadership, John and Joe, right? So I'd met John, knew about Joe. I'd gotten some references from other big key accounts that they had had, and John was called the Oracle. Joe is the czar. So like, they had this great reputation.
Wow, how's that for your ego over there?
John is the Oracle. I am not the czar.
That is not true. That is not true.
He's the customer whisperer.
When you get that feedback and then you give them the chance and they just do such an incredible job, it just makes it the right decision. I mean, to outsource anything, especially in a small business, that's like, you want to keep everything central, right? You want to control it all. And especially outsourcing client services, customer experience, is daunting a little bit. So the trust in Joe and John 100% made up for it.
So this certainly accelerated your staffing. It accelerated how you handle disaster recovery. How about technology? We're talking quite a bit at Zendesk right now around what we're calling the digital tipping point, where we've all adopted more technology in our personal and professional lives faster than we could have ever anticipated. How did that come into play for you at Mako Medical?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to our customer support and service, and the technology that we're using was very foundational, very traditional. Call in, take notes, maybe some CRM work. But when you start getting that amount of calls, literally it broke our system. It literally broke it. And so we had to so quickly pivot to cloud-based Zendesk, and now I'm getting outside of my scope of understanding. John and Joe, tell them the amazing things that you guys do.
You're like, and I'm out.
You can see him leaning over his skis.
Yeah,
Leaning forward.
Which is why you have an outsource partner, right?
And honestly, before John will give a tech answer, but Josh actually gave us just the nicest compliment, and he didn't even know he did it last week, because he said, I mean, for us, this was a hard project. I mean, this was intense. It was emotional. It was tough. And the thing is that, yeah, Mako had a lot of phone calls that they had to take, and they had to start doing customer support. But the stuff behind the actual business that they run had to scale like 10x. Like because we got to visit their facility, and the stuff Josh and his people were doing was amazing and mind blowing. I mean, building buildings in days that they were expanding into. And the other day he said, because we were talking about that it was stressful, and he actually said, I actually don't remember the customer service part being stressful. And it was the nicest compliment. John and I talked about it afterwards, because that's what John and I have dreamt of creating, is a business where we can do that for clients. And so that was awesome. And a big part of it was because of the technology that we were deploying, and Zendesk and other stuff. And now I'm getting
Well,
going
and yeah,
on my
I want to talk.
skis.
I want to talk about Zendesk, but I think the point of trusting us as an extension of the brand, that's the vision. That's why we created this. I feel like we wanted to be a partner that the clients we work with could trust and feel like we're truly an extension, and it's not a butts and seats type relationship. The Zendesk being the technology solution was for me a very easy decision because the majority of our clients use them. We have a great relationship with Zendesk, and I talk to Zendesk almost every single day. And so I knew in order to do this well, we need to do something that we were really familiar with, and they were much more advanced and cloud-based and solid. It's not a up and comer. It's something that we knew had a really good foundation. And so it also is omni-channel. So it allowed us to do phone. It allowed us to do tickets. There were, we were taking, the inbound amount of tickets hitting 25,000. It was insane. That's a high scale from 80. But there was also a significant amount of tickets that we moved into Zendesk. And I think at one point we moved 28,000 tickets into Zendesk and started working through those. And all of that, Zendesk was a clear solution for it because we knew you did it all, and we love working with you guys. So it's for us, it was a very easy decision. We've got certified Zendesk admins here, and they can all kind of dive in. And there's so many unique things about platforms, but I think what makes Zendesk the most unique for us is that you can a lot of the stuff that people think is very difficult to do. Our team can get in and implement something in a couple hours. And so that's something that is important to the clients that we have. And in this case, it was super important.
Customer experience is hard. And Joe, you certainly talked about that. Josh, you talked about that. So providing great customer experience, we'll never claim that that's an easy thing to do. But things like your technology shouldn't be hard. That should be something super simple to implement. We're getting some operational questions, and so I want to dive into those real quickly in the last few minutes that we have. And I expect this is a customer HD question, but at what point do you decide to cross-train your agents versus specializing them? Is it a volume thing? Is it a growth thing? Like, how do you make that decision?
It's a great question. For us, it comes down to it's a utilization question, right? So if your agents are highly utilized on one account, you're never going to cross-train them. If there's opportunity from a utilization perspective where somebody might be working, there's a forecast, you see there's going to be a decrease coming, and it happens to couple with an increase for another account, you can create something that's mutually beneficial for Customer HD and both of those accounts, and potentially save people money. So I think there's opportunity there. What we do have to look at is also the skill sets. So we've got some clients that demand a high level of technical expertise, where we have people that'll troubleshoot routers and the technology that's tied to the routers. And then we have clients in the healthcare space where you have to be very, very clear about what you can and can't do, right? But you also have to be emotional and empathetic. And so you have to think about the people, you have to think about the forecast and the demand, and determine what you can do from that perspective. We don't do a ton of cross training here. Most of our agents are dedicated.
And a question about remote work, and this is something I know we're all facing, and we face it in different ways. Customer HD, I know you have brought people back into the office in a very safe environment, like you talked about. Josh, where are your teams? Are they still remote in the office? How's that working?
Yeah, it's blended. Obviously, with our lab, we need people there and doing the lab work. And then the operational functions that support the lab, like supply chain, logistics, those sorts of things, those are still working in the office or in their work area. But we try to do everything possible to mitigate any risk and make it a safe environment. We test a lot. Obviously, we can because we're a lab. Everyone wears masks. We try to keep everything distant, touchless as much as possible. So, I think we're blended. And those people that can work from home, if they feel that's what they feel safest doing, we allow them to do that. Fortunately, we've not seen a productivity shift in a negative manner when they're allowed to do that. So, we'll continue to do it as long as people feel like they, think they want to be safest at home.
Agree to that.
And Sarah, most of our team is remote. We're probably like 85-90% remote. We have our space in here can hold. We're just doing the numbers, but it can hold far more during non-COVID times than what we have in the building right now. And so we find opportunities to bring people in house because we feel like it's important to build community. And
yeah, we do a
trust.
training, and then we have an assimilation period where people work on premises until they kind of earn their right to go home if they want to. But then we're able to kind of culturize them, and they make friends and hopefully fall in love with the client that they're working on, which is a big part of our business, is them actually building a relationship with the client, because that's what they work on majority of their day. They're not necessarily thinking about customer HD all day. They're thinking about the client that they serve. And so, them doing that together in community is an important part of growing. And then we let folks go home for the clients that we're able to.
All right. I told you it was going to go fast. We're down to our last couple minutes. Josh, what's next? What's on the horizon? Where are your investments? What are you up to?
Oh, I've only got 60 seconds, so here we go. We see healthcare continue to getting closer to the patient. So our goal is to continue to push for that within the lab space, more at-home patient collection kits, more at-home using telemedicine, integrating some additional ancillary services. So this experience that we've had serving patients, I think, has prepared us for what the future holds within healthcare.
Customer HD, what's next for customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part is going to be to continue to deepen our relationship with the partners that we have. I think that's first and foremost, both on the technology side and the clients that we have, like Mako and Josh. We are finding opportunities for growth. Last year was a good year for Customer HD from a growth perspective, and we're just continuing to see that reputation continue to build, which is helping us continue to grow, it's been fun. We're on a fun ride.
Anything to add to that, Joe?
No, we're actually getting to do what John came to me a couple of years ago and said, let's start a customer service company. And he is the customer whisperer, and he always was for the companies that I started. So I said yes. And we wanted to redefine what it was like to work for a BPO. And we wanted to redefine what it was like for a BPO to partner with a client. And we wanted to work on them like they were our companies, just like we have for years. And so we're actually finding clients who want to do that. And so we're having a ball, and going to keep doing that and keep finding the right clients to do so, and keep using Zendesk. We'll keep using Zendesk. Zendesk is great. And Mako's Mako Medical, big shark.
Yes.
We love some Mako Medical.
Absolutely.
Well, for all of us who care about the customer experience, we got the shark, we got the guru, we got the icon, customer whisperer. Y'all, you're doing some great work. And so really, really appreciate all the support that you've given to your customers throughout this pandemic. It is so appreciated. And all the great customer experience that you've provided. And that's it for today. So big thank you, Josh, Joe, Jonathan. Thank you for sharing your expertise. And thank you to everyone for sharing a moment with us. Next on a CX Moment, we'll be talking with Calm about how important their sleep and meditation app has become during the pandemic. And as you can expect, all that popularity certainly means a lot more customer support. And in the meantime, join us for our pop-up magazine event on April 8th. It is all about the digital tipping point, and it's going to be super cool and unusual. So head on over to Zendesk.com and check out that pop-up magazine event. And in the meantime, that's it. Be safe, be helpful, and we'll chat again soon. Thank you all so very much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.